Hello, today I'm going to demo how I use maps and Canopy, what they're for, what they're not for, and some examples. So to start, I'm on front page of my Canopy. I'm going to filter to only see maps. So here are a bunch of maps I have. As you can see, I really don't have that many. Well, I have thousands of nodes in my Canopy. I only have maybe a couple dozen maps. And you'll soon see why. So to start though, I'm going to create a new map. So click up here, click new map, and I'm going to title it, let's see, what jobs do I hire maps for? All right, so what jobs do I hire maps for? Well, let's see. What are maps good at? Very fair question. And what are maps bad at? Okay. So I just added two nodes by shift clicking, pulling that up. I could also click the plus button. I'll do that now. So I'm working on this on today's date. So I'm going to add a node for that. I'm just going to drag it out of the way. And by doing this, I can then click on the node and some stuff I'm working on, and this will be highlighted, and I can see maps with this node. So I can jump back to it. Okay. So what are maps good at? What are maps bad at? Let's see. And I'm going to say these are opposites. But that's actually, I mean, that was just kind of just a distracting thought. That's not relevant to what I'm doing here. So I created that link between these two nodes. Right? I can go to what are maps bad at. I see the outbound link. I can come back here, click the map. I see what are maps good at. Right? I see the inbound link. Created a link to these two nodes. But that these two are related isn't actually relevant. So I can click this to remove the link. Down arrow. I'm going to refresh. All right, it's gone. I will dig into that. And so that's actually one thing maps are good at. They, so an instance of what maps are good at is maps manage, not distracting, but say tangential thoughts. Right, so I had that tangential thought, I had space to capture it, but then I can remove it so it doesn't distract me from what I'm doing. So that's an instance of what maps are good at. All right, let's see, what else? Oh, I've already been creating right nodes and links, so that's good. Oops, put that back. So, instance, maps are good at capturing nodes and links. I think that's fair. Great. Okay. Let's see, what else? And now keep thinking, right, what jobs do I hire maps for? Well, let's see, I'm actually going to take a step back, and I was motivated, kind of inspired to build maps. I realized that I can build maps on top of nodes and links while reading this book called Mind in Motion by Barbara Tversky. So I'm going to put that here. And now this actually gets to one thing that maps are bad at. Well, I want to know more about Mind in Motion by Barbara Tversky. All right, so go to create a link, not really get information here, right? So that's a couple bits of info about this. But I want to, if I wanted to explore Mind in Motion, I could click expand all. All right, I get a link. Oh, I just deleted it. All right, go back. Let's go expand all again. Oh, that's hideous. And this is bad, right? I just expanded all, got all the links from Barbara Tversky into my Canopy, which I guess is what I wanted. But now it's made a huge mess of this map, and that's not actually related. So in this instance, right, what maps are bad for, I would say they're quite bad at exploring information. So I'm going to remove this, I'm going to delete this. Let's see, maps are bad at, an instance of this would be maps are bad at exploring, right? And why? Well, adding information to a map as it. So then it has to be removed if it's not relevant. All right, so let's make that. Okay, I think that's fair. I'm going to drag this off to the side. So maps are bad at exploring. They're good at capturing nodes. They manage tangential thoughts. Oh, so this, mind and motion, that's kind of random. So I'm going to add another node here, maps. And let's say, I'm going to create a link here, inspired, enter. Great, great. And I'm going to keep maps around here, but maybe this link. All right, that's sort of relevant. Okay, so now I have, right, I'm on this map. What jobs do I hire maps for? Well, what are maps good at? A couple instances, good at capturing nodes and links, and they manage tangential thoughts, right? You can capture it and then remove it so it doesn't distract. You don't have to hop around too much to do that. Maps are bad at, well, they're bad at exploring. Or, let's see. I'd say related to maps manage tangential thoughts. Let's see. Maps, they avoid distraction from existing nodes and links. All right, that's kind of related to a lot of this. So they're good at capturing nodes and links. They manage tangential thoughts. That helps them be good at avoiding distraction from existing nodes and links, and that's an instance. Right, so I have tons of information in my canopy about maps, about the project work, building and designing this stuff, bug fixes, all sorts of random stuff, and use cases. But none of that's here, even though I'm taking nodes on maps. But if I were to go to maps, for instance, I have all sorts of links. And that's just not helpful, because that's not what I'm thinking about right now. But if I were working in a tree or in this node view, all of that would come up. It's helpful for exploration, it's helpful for understanding maps. It's not helpful necessarily for thinking about what jobs do I hire maps for. All right. Yeah, so I think that is about good enough for this maps, right? What do I hire? Oh, well, I didn't actually answer the question. What jobs do I hire maps for? Ultimately, it is to see my thoughts on a subject. I think that's it. I can put them all in one space. I can think with the tool, right? Have all these tangential thoughts. Maybe they're relevant, maybe they're not. I can remove as necessary. I can build on my existing nodes and links. So I have full access to the power of Canopy. But ultimately, I get this document, this visual artifact that's roughly my thoughts on a subject. One last thing. I said, what jobs do I hire maps for? Well, let's see. I'm going to say, I'm going to throw terminology in here. Instance, right, so when I think jobs, I'm referring to something in particular. Jobs to be done. Let's see if I get, I'm not sure which of those semantic style links is correct, so I'm just going to do this, jobs to be done framework. So that's something by, oh man, I'm forgetting the names, but a couple of researchers, I believe out of Harvard and Northwestern. But the idea that we think about adopting products and services based on the jobs that they're going to do for us. They wrote some very good books. Okay, so that's my map. That explains that. Now I'm going to show some examples of maps I have. So I mentioned before that I don't have very many of them. One nitpick with this view is it shows last modified as being a long time ago. That's only because I haven't edited the map, like the top level entity itself, the title, in a long time, but I've been editing its content. So the content's updated more frequently, and I should fix this to indicate that. All right, so yeah, what do I have here? I have a map for the email onboarding flow, the browser extension, like just a bunch of project management stuff here. I scroll down though, and I have exercise, goals, whatever's on my mind at this time. Here, I'm going to look at cooking. So I'm going to open weekend cooking. So this was, right, I wanted to kind of make an inventory of the stuff we make on the weekend frequently. And I organized it by the heat source, basically, the method, right? Purees, we have a baby, smoker, roast, pressure cooker, a large pot. So these are all things that sort of take a little while. And now if I wanted to think about, all right, what do we often cook on the weekends? Is it enough? What are some patterns? I can go here and look at all of that. And then what's great is, so let's see, I can click on one of these, smoker, and right, I'm constantly actually adding nodes and links here. So I'm adding, we made a turkey around Thanksgiving, chicken thighs, whole cauliflower. So I have all that information here that I can navigate and add to, but whenever I want to jump back to the top view, I have this. Oh, and you actually saw, if I go back, there's also a map for weeknight cooking, and that's organized similarly. I need to put a lot more work into this, actually. And I kind of do every 3 to 6 months or so, and that's the point of Canopy. It's here to kind of gradually build up your knowledge about things and capture that information without forcing you to do it all at once. All right. I guess one last thing to note is areas for improvement. Ultimately, I see maps as a kind of a tool, right, to capture your thoughts on a subject, but then you should be able to synthesize them better. So an example of a really messy map, and maps ultimately just, right, if your thoughts are messy or numerous and not well synthesized, the map is going to be messy. So this is perspective design. So I'm thinking about having an explicit notion of perspective in your canopy, and this would kind of be a part of how you can view information other people publish. Right? They may publish a perspective on a topic, and that's this thing that can be shared, and you can then add to your canopy and view and annotate. And my thoughts are not at all synthesized on this or finished. So this is a big mess, right? I have a bunch of observations, I have issues or implications, questions, answers, and it's kind of just nuts. And what I'd like to start doing, right, when I actually do find answers to things, I end up kind of saying, I'll come up with a new, let's say a design principle toolbar. And this design principle might solve, a bunch of things. And I would go into that and I would explain the magic of this design principle. And then I'd go back to my map and I delete that other stuff that it solves, because now this principle is kind of the top level node of my understanding of all those problems in my perspective thoughts. But there's no tool for that right now here, right? I have to manually create this and delete all these little things. And what I'd actually rather have is another map about this design principle and about its relation to those other things that it replaces, and that should all be done in kind of one action. Other examples of what should exist in maps but doesn't is I'd like to color things, right? You can kind of build visual hierarchy. Let me go back to an example of that. I think this is a good example. So this is much more a simpler project that's just getting started. Canopy browser extension, but milestones is kind of, I put it at the top to indicate it's a higher level thing. But I'd like to kind of color some things, right? So these are milestones. These are, I guess, milestones, and then I'm going to have tasks. And maybe the lines and the boxes can be styled to indicate kind of their different levels of importance. All right, I think that's it about maps. Please feel free, if you have any questions, to put them in the comments or reach out on Twitter or email. Thanks.